I asked you once before. Ask. That's fun. That's
I got it.
We now come to our formal part of the meeting, the speeches. You have before you an evaluation slip that was mentioned in one of the table topics. So please put your comments on those. Of course, we have the four formal evaluations here. So our speaker, the first speaker, Toastmaster Chris Ecklund. Here's what you can expect from the first speaker. Stories, stories, and more stories. Prepare to be inspired. Please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Chris Ecklund with his speech, How to Speed Up Your Job Search. Toastmaster Chris Ecklund.
Please grab your coffee and let's tell some stories. I had to learn this by necessity. We all have to learn this by necessity. How to job search. And I was in that position, that escapade, 7 times, including my 2 internships. And let's face reality, AI is here. AI is making an impact. It's changing jobs and it's replacing some jobs. I looked at the news because I wanted to have some insight and relevance to this talk today. And it can be scary, but we can face it. If what they're saying is true, entry-level, white-collar jobs are going to be extremely impacted. And we might already be seeing this. If what they're saying is true, the college graduate unemployment rate is now higher than the regular unemployment rate. That means it might be harder to get a job as a college student. So that presents a big challenge. But I've collected some success stories for us to look at together here today. And maybe we can learn something. And first of all, I admit that all of these stories, these are male job searchers because I'm a guy and most of my friends are guys. However, I believe these principles apply to everyone and there are many more stories to be told. So Neil is our first story. Neil was a college graduate who studied mechatronics engineering and he was great on paper. Great, but he pursued the classic job searching methods. He applied, he wasn't getting what he was looking for. He did an enormous amount of networking. He still wasn't getting what he was looking for fast enough. But one of his connections suggested that he just send his resume to this specific company that seemed like it was a good match for him. No jobs posted, just send the resume. He did that. Turned out, shortly later, they were hiring. And they had his resume, they knew who he was. Thankfully, he got interviews and he got an offer. That's a success story. Our next story is Yuki. Yuki was a college graduate who studied computer science, and he wanted to get into big tech. But the college job search was challenging. It was so saturated. There were so many applicants, and that was a huge challenge. Luckily, he heard about a competition. He went to the competition, he demonstrated his skills, he did well, and he connected with the tech company, the local tech company that hosted the competition. Shortly later, it happened that that tech company was hiring. Who do you think they thought of? They remembered him. Thankfully, he got interviewed and he got an offer. Another success story. Ian's story is about someone who was already a few years into his career working in wealth management. Unfortunately, he was laid off. He attacked the job search. He did the traditional methods. He applied to over 140 jobs. What do you think it got him? Unfortunately, not the result he wanted. But he knew the previous job he had gotten, it happened from a recruiter. So he reached out to that same recruiter as well as some other recruiters. But that one he already knew, they had a relationship. And that recruiter was nice enough to share Ian with the rest of the recruiting firm, which dramatically broadened his search and brought in an opportunity that was good for him. Thankfully, he got to interview and he got an offer. A success story. So these job searchers, they pursued a variety of methods of job searching. Each found someone who could hire them, a door opener, but the path was winding and not as intentional as it could be. How can we bottle this? How can we identify what led to the success and make job searching repeatable? Job searching and landing a job repeatable. Well, here's 3 steps for you to think about. First, identify the profile of the person who could hire you or lead to you getting hired. That is the details and type of person. Second, find and connect with people that match that profile. The more people you find and the faster you do it, the better. And that way you can speed up your job search. And three, continue doing this until a match becomes a door opener. So let's look at 3 more stories of people who did apply this specific method in their job search. Next, Art's story. Art wanted to pivot in his career from something else into something new, elevator sales. For him, the profile of his potential door opener is anyone doing elevator sales, the job he wanted to do, as well as anyone in an elevator company, as well as anyone in the elevator industry, because they might all know of an opportunity. Art reached out to over 200 people over the course of just 2 weeks on LinkedIn. Of those 200, 10 of them came back and had a conversation. 1 of them turned out knew they were hiring. That led to an interview, opportunity, and an offer. Our next success story is Jake. Jake was a college graduate, wanted to work in civil engineering. For Jake, the profile of his potential door opener is any civil engineer, or anyone working at a civil engineering company, or anyone involved with the Civil Engineering Association that Jake had been a part of. Jake, over the course of 3 weeks, reached out to over 300 people on LinkedIn. Of those 300, 25 got back to him and engaged him in a conversation. Of those conversations, 10 turned into longer conversations, and of those, 1 was an individual who knew they were expanding their team and they liked what Jake had to offer. That led to interviews and an offer. Our last story, Luke, is an example that this isn't just for people who want to connect with hundreds of people. This is a process that can work for anyone, including introverts. Luke was a manager at a restaurant, and he wanted to move to be a manager in the corporate world. For Luke, the profile of his potential door opener was anyone working at a company that did or might have a management opening or project management opening. Luke went at his own pace over the course of 2 years, and he met with friends and family and mentors, and at each of those meetings, 10 of them total, he asked, do you know anyone that matches my profile of people I'm looking for? And each of them did know at least one person, so that connected him to 10 potential profile matches. Thankfully, one of them was a door opener. He received interviews, and he received an offer, a success story. Fantastic. So what do we see? We see that you can speed up your job search if you, 1, identify the profile of the person who could be a door opener, 2, find and connect with people that match that profile, and 3, continue doing this until you find that person who is indeed your door opener. Job searching is not easy, but with a plan and with optimism, you can do it. Mr. Toastmaster.